Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. We've got another jam-packed show, a great St. Patrick's Day edition of the Word on Woodward. Dan Dickerson is going to be joining us shortly for the mailbag, and we've got interviews with Tigers pitcher Julio Teheran, MLB.com's Jason Beck, Max Bultman of The Athletic, and former Tiger Dan Petry, and a lot more. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my co-host, Art Regner, who I know is probably very amped up for St. Patrick's Day. Last night at the Red Wings game, he was wearing his little ears. Oh, he's got them on. Yes. Okay. I thought I was giving everyone a teaser and you weren't going to be wearing them, but you nailed it, Art.
Yes, I did there, Daniela. One thing that I learned today, and you might be surprised at this, I really don't have a whole lot of green clothing. I might have a green tie or two, but since I'm so fat now, I can't button a shirt to wear a tie. So I couldn't wear a green tie today, but I do have, this is Kenny O'Cal, and this is Danny O. Dickerson on top of my head. And they each have a brew and they're dancing. That's typical Dan. That's typical Ken. So, and this is about as green as something I have. It is green, but it's kind of a light. It almost looks blue, I think, on my screen. But, hey, it's St. Patty's Day. I'm like a quarter Irish. I don't know how you figure it out, but my grandmother, my Griffin, Agnes Griffin, 6 sisters, 1 brother, big Irish Catholic family, and then the Regner side. God only knows. I have no idea, supposedly German. My dad always said Prussian, and that we descended from kings or something, but he was a real character. But with all that said, happy thanks. I was almost said happy Thanksgiving. And I've been having some brews with these two, so excuse me. But happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone, and hopefully this looks green. And Bing Crosby's in the background. Crosby's Irish, perfect. Right? Yeah, Crosby's Irish, and he's singing Christmas tunes.
All right, lovely. You've got Christmas, Thanksgiving, and St. Patrick's Day all in one.
I'm Mr. Holiday. I'm Mr. Holiday. That's what I am. I'm Mr. Holiday.
All right, Art, while you try to remember what day it is, we're going to get into the big three for today, presented by our friends at Chevrolet and the Red Wings, coming off a really big win at Little Caesars Arena last night. So for any of you that missed it, let's take a look at, we're not going to take a look at the highlights. We're going to just talk about this game, Art Regner. Okay, so we know that the Red Wings beat. We're going to have them in just a minute, but right now we're going to talk about that game. It was a 4-2 win over the Carolina Hurricanes, and Dylan Larkin, ever since he's returned from injury, has been on fire. He had 2 assists on the night, and they were, well, one of them was an absolute highlight reel assist, but both of them were really nice.
Yeah, well, Dylan's been playing his tail off. I mean, since he's been back, he from injury, the Red Wings have been a different club. I think he settled down into the captain's role a little bit. I think he was pressed in the beginning of the year. And I think, after he was hurt and he had a chance maybe to take a step back and watch them play, I think it tore him up that he wasn't in the room with the guys he was watching on television. He didn't go on that road trip. And I think he came back with a renewed vigor. I thought Carolina really tried to defend him, really, stay in front of him and neutralize his speed. And, and again, he had an end-to-end rush last night, the Fabre goal. I mean, that was vintage Dylan. I mean, he was moving. He did not allow Carolina to take his time and space away no matter what they did. He was in constant motion. So, which is great. And the other players see that. They know how they defended him on Sunday's game. So he comes out Tuesday, and, he even brings it even stronger. That's a leader. That's your best player. And you really have to tip your cap to Dylan Larkin, who is Irish, by the way.
Oh,
I know that for a fact. Oh, yeah. His dad's side of the family, big Notre Dame fans. And they happen to be the Fighting Irish.
Dylan went to Michigan and his family's Notre Dame fans?
His dad, Kevin, tells a great story. about a recruiting trip. It's just excellent, where they were supposed to go to Notre Dame the next weekend. And his dad, because Dylan's grandfather, Kevin's dad, is big Notre Dame fan. And he knows that Dylan's leaning towards Michigan as they're driving home from Ann Arbor, and he's so Kevin's playing up Notre Dame. Well, next week we're in Notre Dame. Next week we're going to see Notre Dame and all this, and Dylan's watching the Michigan pep band play that Blues Brothers thing. Da, 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 da. I don't know if you've ever been to a Michigan hockey game. It's a big thing. Dylan actually, we showed it last year on WOW. He kind of led the just before the shutdown. Yep. Remember, he was at the game. He was leading the students in that thing, and he's looking at it and he's watching it. I guess he taped it on his phone or something, or recorded it. And he looks at his dad and says, "Dad, I'm going to Michigan," and that was it. It was done. He was not going to go to. He wasn't going to commit to Notre Dame, but still Irish, and playing his tail off. Captain of the team. You got to be into it.
Well, now we do have the highlights, so let's take a look back at Dylan Larkin's assist and the rest of the highlights from last night's game. The Red Wings welcomed some familiar faces in the Carolina Hurricanes last night at Little Caesars Arena. Brothers Svechnikov and Stahl at it again. In the first period, Carolina on the early power play, and Jesper Fast finds Nino Niederreiter with a nice centering pass. Niederreiter has the wide open net. He taps it in and gives Carolina the early 1-0 lead. That was his 13th goal of the season, a team high. The Red Wings now with the man advantage, and Filip Zadina makes a play to the net. James Reimer with a couple of saves before Adam Erne picks up the loose puck and rifles in a power play goal to tie this up at 1 apiece. Run it back for Adam Erne. The Red Wings on the power play again, looking to set up, and Dylan Larkin finds Adam Erne for the one-timer. He beats Reimer 5-hole from the slot for his second of the game, and the Red Wings are on top 2-1. Now in the second period, Sebastian Aho receives the cross-ice pass from Martin Necas, beats Jonathan Bernier top shelf. We now have a 2-2 game. Bernier with another solid performance, 35 saves on the night, and here was a big one to keep this thing tied. A little help from Robby Fabbri. Robby Fabbri's expression says it all. How did that not find the back of the net? Here's Dylan Larkin. He takes the puck from his own zone and weaves his way through, going coast to coast alongside Anthony Mantha and Robby Fabbri. Drops a pass back for Fabbri, who buries the setup to put the Wings back on top, 3-2. Third period, still 3-2 Wings, just about 30 seconds left in the game. Reimer on the bench, and of course it's Filip Hronek shooting the length of the ice and finding the back of the net for his first goal of the season. Red Wings would take this one with a final score of 4-2. And Filip Hronek with a 3-point night, quietly finding himself with 8 points in his last 4 games.
Definitely. I think Filip Hronek, again, and I'm not going to keep harping on this, but this is just plain cold, hard fact. When they had those 5 guys out with COVID, I think everybody who was healthy and was still playing really started to press too much. And I think Hronek was one of those guys. He's led the team in ice time the whole season long. Dylan was obviously one of those guys that were pressing, next man up. I know all that mentality, but sometimes you need your best players. We're talking five regulars into the lineup that just didn't play. They were 0, 6, and 2. I was talking to Chris Osgood last night, and if you take that off and you look, and, even if they split 3 and 3, they're not that far out of a playoff spot, and who knows? They were playing well. Fabbri was going in at second line at center with Zadina and Ryan. That line looked good. The top line, Bertuzzi wasn't hurt. All of that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I see a different Red Wing team now. I see a Red Wing team that is playing with confidence. I see a Red Wing team that, Adam Erne is tied with Tyler Bertuzzi with the most power play goals on the team at 3. Erne, get this. Erne has 6 points, which is 1 more than he had all last year in 56 games. And again, that's my theory of sometimes when a guy's traded, it takes him about a year to get used to his surroundings, And Adam Erne looks really, really comfortable. And I think that, you can see why Steve traded for him. I mean, there were times last year where I'm thinking, God, what did Steve see in this guy? Well, I think Steve, when he traded for him, saw a guy who can skate, he's a big guy. He's a stocky dude. And, they can have some offensive skill. I think Steve thought his offensive side would show last year, and it's beginning to show this year, especially on the power play. And, that line, of him and Glendening and Helm, that's a really good fourth line. So the Red Wings, I like what Jeff Blashill said last night. He simply said, we're playing like a hockey team right now, meaning they know what their roles are. They're settling in. Their power play, since they snapped the 0-for-40 streak, is sixth best in the league. They're converting at almost 30%. So, things are starting to go, and it's no coincidence that, the Red Wings, except for Bertuzzi, and that's a huge loss, have been relatively healthy, and they're starting to get used to playing with each other. I mean, this was a pretty big roster turnover in the offseason last year, but you can start to see a semblance of a pretty good hockey team, and they've always been pretty good 5-on-5. Special teams were killing them. Now they're coming around. And look, Carolina, I think Carolina outshot them like 30-15 or something, or 7 or 8 in the last two periods. I mean, they were coming hard at them, but they were the ones taking the penalties. Detroit took the play to them. They were doing a lot of the chasing. 6 penalties by Carolina. I've not read the Carolina papers. But I would assume that, Rod Brindamore's got to be pretty unhappy with the way his team took 6 penalties. Red Wings were 2 for 6, I think, on the power play. Just a great game all around. 5 of 8 points from Tampa and Carolina. Now the Red Wings have a Dallas team where I just don't know where Dallas is at right now. They've only played 25 games and they have 25 points in 25 games. So, that might be something. And then I think they go to Nashville, where they always play well. So this is a nice little stretch for them. These fellas can start maybe not only feeling good about themselves, but maybe, just maybe, make this a little bit of a playoff race. I mean, Chicago's in 4th right now with 33 points, I think they have. So, let me double check that. Yeah, they have 33. Detroit has 22. And they both have played 30 games. I mean, that's a huge amount of points to make up. But stranger things have happened in a COVID-induced hockey season.
You guys, I had about 3 follow-up questions for Art, but he answered all of them in the first question. So we're going to move on to the second topic of today's.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm all jacked, man.
Art's amped up about the Tigers season 2. So let's talk a little bit of spring training. Jonathan Scope made his spring training debut earlier this week. There were some small roster moves, including Matt Manning, Christian Stewart, and Derek Hill being assigned to Toledo. Cody Clemens, Dylan Dingler are assigned to minicamp. And Art, I'm just going to get you right into this because we might have another monologue like we just had about the Red Wings win last night with Akil Baddoo. He has been great during spring training. I don't know how you don't give him a roster spot.
Well, just his hair alone, he should make the team. And, he has been, I actually prepare for this show and take notes. He's a Rule 5 draft. We've talked to him. He hasn't really played baseball in almost 2 years. He had Tommy John surgery where I think it was on a throw. Remember, Danielle, he told us, and he knew his arm wasn't right. But get this. This is 23 games played. He has 9 runs, 9 hits, 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in. His average is .391. He has speed. He has 1 stolen base. It's amazing. I'm looking at, slugging percentage is .870. His on-base percentage is .548. And out of 5 of his hits, out of his 9 hits, have been for extra bases. 3 homers and 2 doubles. I don't know what more he can do. He can play the outfield. He's good defensively, good size at 6'1", 189 pounds. He bats left-handed. The Tigers have needed, some power from the left side for a while. He's checking all the marks. Are they going to go with 5 outfielders? Now, Jacoby Jones, and we'll talk to Jason Beck about this. Jacoby Jones and Victor Reyes have options left, meaning you could option them to Toledo if they only wanted to carry 4 outfielders. And I'm not saying that either one of those guys is going, but, they don't have to clear waivers is my point, because I am telling you right now, if I'm the Minnesota Twins, I am just like watching this Akil Baddoo, situation, because if the Tigers say, we got to offer him back for $100,000, what would break my heart, and I know yours too, Daniela, is watching Akil Baddoo go back to Minnesota and blossom as this left-handed power hitter with speed, almost a five-tool player. I just think that what he's done right now, I don't think the Tigers can risk losing a player who could really be coming into his own. He's only 22, hasn't played in 2 years, as I said, the Tommy John surgery. Akil Baddoo, welcome to Detroit, my friend. Welcome to the Tigers.
He definitely didn't make AJ Hinch's job any easier on him heading into this season, but that's a good thing. This is a great problem to have. Yeah, and like you said, I think the Tigers know what they have in Akil Baddoo and that they can't let him go just yet. They definitely have to see what they can get out of him. And like you said, we'll talk more about that with Jason Beck. Dan Dickerson is going to join us shortly, and you're going to be joined by Dan Petry for the headliner. So we're going to talk a lot of Tigers today. So let's wrap it up with some Red Wings news for our third topic of the big three, the signing of Donovan Sebrango, a 2020 entry draft pick. He was the 63rd overall pick in the third round out of the OHL in Kitchener. An entry-level deal, the first draft pick to get his entry-level deal. Art, why is this so unique? What makes this situation so unique for this year?
Well, number one, he's 19 years old. And unless you have exceptional status like Joe Veleno had, who started in the Canadian Hockey League, in his case, the Quebec League, you have to play 4 years there, meaning you have to be 20 years old in order to play in the AHL if you come from the Canadian Hockey League, which is the Quebec League, the Ontario League, and the Western Hockey League. Sebrango played in the OHL. He played for the Kitchener Rangers. He had no place to play, so they signed him. The Grand Rapids signed him to I think it was a PTO, professional tryout contract. I know from talking to Ben Simon and doing the Red and White Authority podcast with him, they really, really liked him. He's played 10 games. Remember, Grand Rapids is only playing a 30-game schedule. He doesn't have a goal, but he has an assist. And as of last night, I don't know what he did last night against Rockford, but he led the team in penalty minutes at 14. He's 19 years old. He's 6'1", 189, and they like his fire. They like his passion. He doesn't back down. And, this was a guy, when I talked to Ben Simon about him on the podcast, and then I went on the Griffin Zoom call this week and asked Ben a little bit more about Sebrango. But he doesn't back down. He's kind of almost an old school defenseman that, he thinks defense first, but he's really tough. He's a really good team player. He's very easy to coach. And, Sebrango has a really interesting story. His background, his father's Cuban, his mother's Canadian. Max Bultman, who we're going to have on, is definitely wrote a great story about his mother had an I don't want to give everything away, but sometimes you have to, his mother was in an auto accident and she's still recovering from that and has a brain injury, but, is slowly but surely making progress. It's a tremendous story. He looks like a tremendous kid. And for a kid at 19 to come in and Ben Simon saying, I don't want him to leave. Now, this contract begins the 3-year contract, 21-22 season. So I guess he could go back to Kitchener and play because the O is starting to play right now. The OHL has finally opened up, but and I'm still not sure where that is. Minor hockey or junior hockey. Yeah, I feel bad for this upcoming draft class. I mean, these poor kids don't know if they're coming or they're going. But I would say that if it were up to Grand Rapids and maybe the Red Wings, boom. They would have to. I would think that you would have to want him to stay in GR. I mean, he's proven himself there. What can he do with the Kitchener Rangers? No offense to Kitchener, great place to play, but what does he have to prove in the OHL? I mean, the kid's holding his own in the A at 19.
Yeah. I mean, we like him in the AHL, right? Hopefully he does stay there and help the Grand Rapids Griffins. But as you mentioned, Art, we will talk more about this in all of our Red Wings news with Max Bultman later. Right now, we're going to wrap up the Big Three. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And now it's time to bring on our first guest of today's show, and we're going to get into the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. And our guest today is Ken O'Call's drinking buddy, one of the leprechauns on top of Art's head right now, Danny
There he is.
Dickerson.
There he is, having a great time.
Man.
Got that brew in hand. He and Kenny right up here dancing. They got their 4-leaf clovers. They're just really having a good time. These guys are partiers. I mean, from way back.
From way back, no question.
It's just not St. Patty's Day. Every day is St. Patty's Day with these two.
Well, Dan, I see you're back from Lakeland. You are on your beautiful back
for Art.
I love it.
It does look good.
Well, let's just start right there, Dan. How was Lakeland? What was it like being down there for spring training this year?
I'm so happy to be there in person. It's not a normal spring training, as you know. I mean, there's no access to players. Everything's by Zoom. So you miss that. I'm not going to deny that. You miss those, daily interactions and the conversations that you have. That's such a part of baseball every day, but especially in spring training as you're learning a new staff or you're learning about what pitchers and, he's so great. And AJ Hinch has really, he's interesting. He doesn't really want us to talk to his assistant coaches. He wants kind of a consistent message coming through him. And I get that. But he has been more than accessible. I mean, the answers he gives, he's trying to give us as much information as we can as we ask about the guys on the team and the work that's going on every day. So to me, it's been great. It's been fun to watch. You mentioned Akil Baddoo. He's the highlight of the spring. There's just no question about it. That kid's fascinating to me. So it's been a blast. It's been a blast. And I look forward to every game. And I can't say that every year I feel that way. But there's always something to look forward to with all these top prospects in camps and the battles that are going on. And I've really enjoyed it so far.
Dan, the one good thing about all of the player availability being, and AJ Hinch as well, over Zoom is that we've been able to kind of tune into it as well. So we get a feel of what's going on. And you're right, AJ Hinch is sending a great message, and he really has been making himself very available. We're all really excited to see what the Tigers are going to do this season. He has a lot of decisions to make. So we'll get right into our fan questions now. And the first one is for you, Dan. This one is from Alex from Lansing. And he asks, I've read about Boyd working on his changeup and Norris working on his curveball. How hard is it to incorporate a new pitch into your repertoire? Ooh, man.
Alex, that's a great question. And it's just something, for fans to realize it's something that pitchers are doing all the time, working on either the pitches that they have or perhaps a new pitch. Think of Tarek Skubal trying to incorporate a split. Not many lefties throw a split, but Tarek Skubal's trying to add that to what's already an impressive repertoire of pitches. Daniel Norris and the curveball. You think of a few years ago, the thing that he really wanted to make sure was that curveball coming out of his hand. So often with pitchers, that ball can pop up and out of your hand so that the hitter sees that slight difference in how it's coming out of your hand, the tunnel that it's going to the plate in, and can recognize that it's off speed. So he wanted to make sure it came out of his hand looking just like a fastball. That's been a work in progress. So, for him, it's like, okay, make sure I bounce this ball to make sure it's coming out of that same spot every time I deliver the pitch. So it can be tough. Matthew Boyd worked on his, as you said, changeup this year. The grips can come and go. The feel for a pitch can come and go. I always think of Jordan Zimmerman, terrific pitcher for all those years. I know he struggled in Detroit, but his big pitch was his slider. Well, he lost the grip on his pitch. So, it's just amazing how the field can come and go. The constant work that goes on to add pitches or refine pitches. Changeup can be a real tricky pitch. A lot of guys never get the feel for that pitch. Jordan Zimmerman never really did because, the arm action has to be the same and you're trying to make it come out a good 7, 8, 9 miles an hour, maybe 10 miles an hour different from your fastball. So it can be very difficult. Ian Kroll, who we're going to talk about, is probably his ticket back to the major leagues. You think of relievers adding a pitch. Ian Kroll's added a curveball that could be his ticket back to the major leagues. It took him, he said, a long time to get the feel for that pitch, but he hung with it. He worked hard at it, but it can absolutely take a lot of time. But for many pitchers, adding a particular new pitch can be career changing.
Dan, quick follow-up to that. We had Tarek Skubal join us last week on the show, and he talked about adding the splitter to his pitching rotation. Were you able to see that pretty well in spring training, or how did it look for Skubal?
No, I unfortunately, and then the spring games, we don't have a monitor for any of the games.
Oh no!
I forgot to steal one from Fox when they did the games. So it's just about the only thing you can tell, from our vantage point in the booth, when a fastball has got some good life based on what you see and what the swings look like. Sometimes you can actually see a knee buckling breaking ball. Alex Lang threw a couple this spring to go with his power fastball. So sometimes you can see that, but it's almost impossible to tell a split from our vantage point in the booth. But I'm really looking forward to seeing it on a monitor because everybody's raving about how he's willing to use it. He's worked hard at it, and it could be a huge pitch for him, and he's already got some pretty good pitches.
Yeah, he seemed pretty confident in it. I just wanted to verify that with you. So we'll have to check back with you after his first start of the season. Now we'll move on to Art's question. Right. This one is from George from Essex, Ontario, who asks, the Wings pick up 3 points against Tampa Bay over the weekend, which is great. That led him to check out the standings to see that 3 of the top 5 teams leading the league in points are in the Central Division. Art, is the Central the toughest division in the NHL?
Well, not only in points, but in winning percentage, the top 3 teams in all of hockey are Tampa Bay, Florida, and Carolina. Florida and Tampa Bay have 42 points. Carolina has 41. Jeff Blashill said something really, really interesting about divisional play. He says that he thinks that each division can probably make a case that they're in the toughest division because they play each other so many times, and it's very, very difficult to beat a team even twice in a row. Look at the Red Wings. I'm not sure what the Red Wings record in the first game of these back-to-backs that they play for the most part, except for that Columbus-Carolina thing, road trip that they're going to do twice. They've already done it once, but for the most part, they're playing at least 2 games against them. Coming up at the end of the year, they're playing 4 games in April against the Dallas Stars, 2 in Dallas, then they come right back to Detroit for another 2. I think that it is. And the reason I think it is because and remember, Dallas is a whole wild card here. And I know Red Wings are just starting to play them. They've only played 25 games. COVID hit them hard. They've had a lot of odd things happen to them. And I think they're a veteran club that I think is only going to get better. So if you look at the point total, 42 for Florida, 41 for Carolina, 33 Chicago, 29 Columbus, Dallas at 25, Nashville at 25, and the Red Wings at 22. Well, my point getting back to that is it's starting to bunch a little bit together. I mean, granted, the Red Wings are 20 points out of first place. That's an impossible climb. I mean, they're not going to challenge for the division title, but can they maybe challenge Chicago for that 4th and final playoff spot in the Central? Perhaps they can if they get better, if they stay healthy, if they can continue to build what they have. In the second game of these back-to-backs, the Red Wings are 7-7-1. And I think that goes right to Blashill's point, is that it's very, very difficult to beat a team 2 times in a row, whether you're on the road or you're at home. Yet they have 3 teams with over 40 points already. To me, that tells me these are high-end quality hockey clubs. Carolina is one of the best young clubs in hockey. They're a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Daniela, I've always liked Florida. They're not surprising me. I know that they're good, and obviously Tampa's the defending Stanley Cup champion. And then you throw in the Dallas Stars, who played Stanley Cup finalists. So overall, all in all, I've got to say, I believe day in and day out with the players on this team and the quality, and sorry, North Division all Canadian teams, well, boy, that's really turned out to be a captivating watch. I'm just going to say that I just like to, you know what? I think that Canadians don't even wear green on St. Patrick's Day. I think they wear orange because that's what they wear. That's what they wear in Scotland. They wear orange on St. Patrick's Day. I guess there's some rivalry between the Scottish people and the Irish people. I do not want to start an international incident. That's what I've heard. But anyway, all I'm saying is this. Yeah, I do believe that they're really good. I really, I think this is a quality division. Tampa's the best team in the league. Carolina, we saw what they can do. I mean, they're a great team. And, in Florida, I mean, those are three really high-end hockey clubs, and don't sleep on the Dallas Stars. This is a team that I believe is going to find their mojo and get better and better and better. I mean, they have games at hand to everybody. I mean, they've only played 25. The Red Wings have played 30. So my answer to this question, in a very short answer, yes.
All of that to get to yes. I love it.
Yes.
And I love your optimism about the Red Wings, but I know you could go on for days about this, but don't. I'm just going to say, I think if the Red Wings want to make the climb and compete with Chicago for that fourth playoff spot, they're going to need Tyler Bertuzzi. You know, I love Tyler Bertuzzi, but I really do think they would need him to be healthy and back in the lineup. Okay, now we're going to move on to Dan's question. Tigers baseball. You can comment on that later, Art. Chris from West Bloomfield asks, Tigers took a flyer on some veteran lefties in Ian Kroll and Derek Holland. Both have looked good so far, but will they be able to make the Tigers bullpen?
That's another good question. And, you know, both were signings. I remember thinking this winter, like, really? What are we doing? Ian Kroll hasn't pitched in the major leagues in a couple of years. Derek Collins had an ERA over 6 the last 2 years. They've both been terrific. You continue to come in and get outs, but it's not only getting outs, it's how you're doing it, and it's the stuff with which you're doing it. Derek Holland came in with the bases loaded, none out in the third inning yesterday, faced 6 batters. Now, the first 4 were lefties, but still faced 6 batters, struck out 5 of the 6. What Derek Holland has to do, he's showing a fastball, first of all, that's consistent 94, 95. That's above where he's been as a starter for the last several years. He's going to be a reliever if he makes his Tigers team. I don't see him making it out of spring, but that certainly is changing as this spring goes along. This guy's been dynamite. So the key for him, righties have torched him 3 of the last 4 years. High average, big power numbers. He has to show he can get righties out. He got 2 out in the game yesterday. I think it was Voigt and Urshela that he got out in the game yesterday, struck 1 of the 2 out. And it was an assortment of not the power stuff, but he's got 4 pitches. He's got the curveball, change, and slider, and he used a lot of off speed to get those guys out. Throwing 94, 95, coming out of the bullpen, and with a 4-pitch mix, he has to show he can get righties out. That track record does matter. They're not just going to judge it on spring performance. But I will tell you, he has opened some eyes with how he's throwing and the way he's getting guys out. Ian Kroll's ticket back to the major leagues, I wouldn't have given you a nickel for his chances to get back to the major leagues a year ago or even a few months ago. Because he's developed a new curveball that he learned in the Twins minor league system. It's a dynamite pitch. A little erratic his last time out. First 2 times we saw it, he was very good. It's a low 90s, fastball, so he's not an overpowering guy from the left side. But with that curveball and the fastball cutter combination, I think he's absolutely showing he can be in a major league bullpen. I don't see room for him coming out of spring. Could he be on a Tigers roster sometime this year? Absolutely. He's worked very hard to turn his life around. He's very candid about, it's some immaturity and I want to be a better teammate. I want to be a better person. And all these things have kind of come together for him. Very impressive. I picture him starting at the alternate training site and then probably, at some point he's going to be part of the mix.
I like it. It's a lot of interesting scenarios. Like you said, Dan, spring training has been exciting every day because we're seeing a lot of young prospects. We're seeing a lot of people that the Tigers brought in, Akil Baddoo, Rule 5 pick. So it's been exciting. I'm curious to see what the opening day lineup will look like. And now we'll move on to our 4th and final question of today's mailbag. This is for the both of you. Art, you can answer first. Patrick from Howell asks, is it just me or do the Tigers have a ton of switch hitters between Candy, Grossman, Nico, Reyes, and Castro? Would you rather put them all at the top of the lineup or spread them out to take away any pitching matchups? Art, you're a lefty, right? Can you switch it?
I'm a lefty. I think, many years ago when I was kind of a smart aleck, I would always put down that I was a member of a minority group, and people would look at me and say, "Dude, you're about as white as can be," and I would say, "I'm left-handed. Trust me." Lefties are a minority group. Scissors don't work for you. Drinking fountains are on the right, the handle's on the right side. There's a lot of things. Anytime you write, your hand's all full of ink. I mean, there's a lot of downers to being a lefty. You almost have to be ambidextrous. You really do. Yet, best thing to be, right? I mean, if you're a left-handed pitcher and you can throw a baseball, buddy, you're making zillions of dollars. if you can be a left-handed power hitter, buddy, you're making zillion of dollars. Most of the best power hitters in baseball, well, I'm not going to but a lot of them were left-handed. So with all that said, I would say this, and based on AJ Hinch and how he likes versatility, and Dan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I always thought that the ultimate lineup that you want to have is, righty, lefty, or lefty, righty, started out that way, and then have, next guy, okay, here's a lefty, next guy up's a righty, here's a lefty, here's a righty, if you can do that. Now, we know that Miguel Cabrera is slated to be fourth, and he's, unless he wants to, pick up switch hitting at 38, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think I would spread them out. That's what I would do. I think I think that's tougher for a manager and for a pitcher to deal with. I think that baseball now is so much this righty lefty and pitching matchups and stuff. If you're a guy on the mound and you're throwing and you're thinking, okay, here's Dan Dickerson, a big power hitting righty or something, boom. But then the next guy up is a left-hander, and then the next guy up's a right. I think that kind of plays a little bit in their mind. I don't know how you can get in a rhythm, even though you're pitching and your spots and location. But I think I would space them out. That's what I would do.
Manager Art Regner is spacing out his switch hitters. Dan, what are you doing?
You put them together, especially if the key for putting switch, the key at the top of a lineup. Think about what Terry Francona has done in Cleveland the last few years with Lindor, Ramirez, Santana. That's brutal. That's 3 switch hitters at the top of the lineup who are good from both sides. That, to me, is the key. Are they good from both sides? Robbie Grossman's been much better left-handed in recent years. He is right now, it appears, the leading candidate to be the leadoff hitter for the Tigers because of his ability to get on base, and he's got some extra base power, or at least he showed it last year. He's been good from the right side in his career. So I'm assuming, the big emphasis on the backfields and in the work that he's doing in the cage is to get that right side going again. If you're going to be better from one side, obviously as a switch hitter, you'd rather have the switch hitter be better from the left side. But AJ Hinch has made it clear, you want them to be good from both sides. Willie Castro was good from both sides last year. AJ Hinch says, I'm still getting a feel for how good he is from the right side. Candelario is a threat from both sides. Victor Reyes did not have a good year last year from the left side. Very low walks, a ton of strikeouts. That's a factor. But those 3, I think, are the ones that you're thinking about. Nico Goodrum is also better from the right side. And AJ Hinch has said, Willie Castro's hit third a lot this spring as a lefty. As a righty, if a lefty starter's on the mound, he might hit him lower in the lineup. But I can tell you, just using the Indians as an example, you want the platoon advantage as often as you can get it. And if your switch hitters are good from both sides, and I think Grossman can get back to being a productive hitter from the right side, it causes all kinds of problems for the opposing manager. He knows he can start a righty, a lefty, and he's got 3 dangerous bats right out of the gate when we see Grossman, Candelario, Castro, 1, 2, 3. It's a tremendous advantage for a manager, but always remember, they have to be good from both sides, and not all switch hitters are.
Art,
well,
I'm sorry,
that.
but
that's a good point.
I'm going with Double D on this one, not because I really know exactly what you should do in that situation, but because I think I'm just rolling with Double D.
Well, that's kind of my point, though, too. I mean, if you look at it, and, we're not talking just about 3 guys, and that's a really valid point about, okay, I'm a switch hitter. I can say, hey, I'm a switch hitter, but, I'm really left-handed. You know what I mean? But, okay, let me try to, I can get up there. I understand that. But what my point being is that sometimes they could have 5 or 6 guys in this lineup that are switch hitters. They're going to be spaced any way you look at it.
Sure.
And I think that's an advantage, certainly. And I agree with Dan's point. Actually, I would want my best switch hitters to be your top 3 hitters in the lineup because they're going to get the most at bats. And they can switch. So that makes a decision for the manager if he's got to change pitchers. Do I go with the righty? Do I go with the lefty? I mean, unless it's your closer, you don't care what your closer is. He's just going to go in if he's righty or a lefty. But aside from that, I mean, I think that is a good advantage to have in a way. I kind of agree with what Double D says, but they seem to have so many, which again, I think plays in. I think when AJ Hinch sat down and talked to Al Avila in the offseason, and he said, Al, how you doing? And Al says, hey, great. I just got done watching another episode of a new movie, The Christmas Carol, which I love. I see every one of them. I'm feeling really good. And he says, I think we need as many switch hitters as possible. I like versatility. I want all my infielders to play all 4 positions. I want my outfielders to play all 3 positions. I want my catcher to, have to play first base, whatever. Right, left field. I want my catcher to play everything because I was a catcher and I know how great we are. But I really want a lot of, if we can get switch hitters, because it's almost a dying art too. I mean, how many switch hitters are there in all of baseball? There used to seem to be, I guess, or maybe I just noticed more when I was younger. There seemed to be, a lot of switch hitters or a lot of guys who at least tried it. I'm not so sure that isn't a dying art today, being a switch hitter. I think guys try it and I think they lose it. But, but I think AJ Hinch likes versatility, and what's more versatile than a switch hitter if he can do it?
So you agree with Double D, or you don't? I don't know.
I think that we both agree with each other.
Yes, exactly.
The thing that you can look for, AJ Hinch is going to get his best hitters in those top 4 spots,
right,
whether they're switch hitters or not. It's a great look. If 3 of your top 4 hitters are switch hitters, it causes all kinds of problems for the opposing manager, believe me. But then he also thinks, he said, in terms of pairs in that lineup. And so think about that too when you're trying to analyze his lineup, lefty, righty on the mound. He doesn't want base cloggers together in the lineup. So there's a lot of different considerations, but the top 4 hitters get the most plate appearances. That's his basic guiding philosophy. That's where he starts.
And we'll end on that great point by Dan.
That blew me away. Have another brew, Double D.
Drop the mic. All right, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Want to dance. Look at these guys.
Get to enjoy your St. Patrick's Day a little bit.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you, Dan. Thank you.
After a couple green beers today, you guys, if you need a little snack, make sure you check out the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Pepperoni Cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. We're going to talk a lot more Tigers baseball in the show with Dan Petry and Jason Beck coming up, and of course, some Red Wings hockey with Max Bultman. But right now, I'm going to toss it over to Carly Johnston.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm joined by Detroit Tigers pitcher Julio Teheran. How's it going? How's the beautiful sunny Florida?
It's beautiful. It's just starting to get warmer here, so we are enjoying this weather. It's beautiful here. It's nice to be playing baseball.
Yeah, no kidding. Down in Florida, much better than playing it here in Michigan, although the weather's been a little better. But this is not your first spring training, obviously, but you're first with the Detroit Tigers. So how do you think it's going in Lakeland, fitting in with the new team?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. Obviously, I'm trying to do my part. I came with a different situation, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do my best. Obviously, to join the rotation. That's one of my goals, and yeah, we see. Hopefully, I can still do my job and get to be with the team for the season.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are making a good impression in Lakeland, so that's got to make you feel good. Does that give you a bit of confidence and in turn, make your game play better?
Yeah, that gives me a lot of confidence. That's how I came this year, and that's why I've set the challenge at the beginning, because I knew that I was able, and the way I train, the way I feel now, I feel like I can be back at the type that I was a couple years ago. Yeah, but everything is going well. Hopefully, I can still do like I've been doing and get to be with the team that it seems that it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of good gameplay, your slider is the best it's been in a while. What did you change to improve that part of your game? What did you work on in the off season to really make sure that your slider was strong?
It was more mechanical work that I was doing. I feel like the last couple of years my arm wasn't moving like it was in the past, and I wanted to change that. I was training with one of the former Tigers, Anibal Sanchez, and he really helped me with my mechanical, um, and he was teaching me how to release the ball a little higher. That a couple of years ago it was getting lower, and it was affecting my slider. But yeah, I got to get my hand on top of the ball, and now my slider, I feel like it's back in what it was in 2016. That I feel that it was one of my best years.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working, but do you feel like you have something to prove after having a season that wasn't your best career season?
Well, I feel like it wasn't me. It wasn't me. That year that I had last year is a year that obviously I want to forget. But it was a challenge. I knew that I needed to work and with some things, and that was what I said. And I'm happy. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be at the form that I like. I feel like I can enjoy more the game when things are moving on that direction.
What is it you're looking to improve on most during this spring training? I know your slider, obviously, as we said before, is looking amazing. So what else is it that you're trying to improve on?
I feel like my velocity is one of the things that the last couple of years they've been talking about my velocity, but obviously it wasn't because I wasn't working. It was mechanical parts that it wasn't working the right way. But now that I'm feeling that all my body is working on the right direction. I feel like my velocity is there, and I've been showing in my last two games that my velocity is back, and that's something that we would like to keep an eye on him to see if he can go up, and I will love to see that.
Absolutely. Okay. And what do you think you can add to this organization as a whole?
Well, I don't really have any pressure with that, but I feel like what I've been doing in my career, go out there and compete every 5 days and do my best, give the team the chance to win every time I get the ball. That's what I feel that I can add. And obviously for the young guys, it's nice to have a veteran guy, and nice to see the veteran guy work. That's something that I'm happy to help with the young guys coming up, that we're seeing that we have a lot of talents there. They're gonna be in the front of the rotation pretty soon for the next couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them a little word of the wise. Couple more questions here. How exciting is it to see fans back in the stands to some capacity?
Well, yeah, I feel like the fans are part of the game too. And last year was a little different, was a lot different. We really missed them, but to have them in the on the stands again is big. It's big for us. We had the motivation. Obviously, we play for them. We want to make them happy. We play for their city, and to have them and on the stands cheering for us is a great motivation that obviously we're gonna feel.
Love it. All right. And I have a couple questions that I kind of want to ask to get to know you a bit. I feel like knowing what people listen to, knowing what music people listen to really tells you a lot about someone. So, what are you bumping in your earbuds leading up to a game or leading up to batting practice?
Well, I'm a reggaeton guy. I like reggaeton. I like to hear J Balvin. He's Colombian, and obviously reggaeton are made in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of Puerto Rican that I like to hear. But reggaeton is what it gets me going.
Love it. Now, are you doing a little dance leading up to the mound if you're listening in your earbuds, or do you just kind of hone in and get focused?
Yeah, more like secret. I'm a shy guy. I don't feel that I know how to dance. I'm a bad dancer. I know I'm Latin, but we're supposed to know how to dance, but I'm bad. Uh, I can try, but it's not like I'm gonna do it great.
Well, now that your slider is looking fantastic, maybe next offseason you can focus on your dance moves.
Thanks. Yes. That's something that we can work in the offseason.
Love it, Julio. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Catching Up with Carly today. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck to you and keep killing it in Lakeland.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Daniela. Back to you.
Thank you, Carly. Best of luck to Julio and the rest of spring training. And for the record, I can't dance either. So I totally understand where he's coming from on kind of just staying focused and not busting any moves as he walks up to the plate. We've still got a lot of great guests joining us today. We're going to talk Tigers baseball with Jason Beck, and Art will be joined by Dan Petry later in the show. And coming up shortly, Max Bultman is going to join us to talk about the Red Wings' recent success. But right now, we're going to get into Bet You Didn't Know, and all of our sports bettors here that are Red Wings and Tigers fans, you might want to pay attention. It's time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers and Detroit Red Wings. We've got a special edition Bet You Didn't Know today. Joining us is Jay Croucher, the head of trading for PointsBet. And Jay has joined us before, but since then, betting has gone live in the state of Michigan. So Jay, how has the launch been for you?
Thanks, Daniela. It's good to be back. Yeah, it's been really exciting since we launched in Michigan at the end of January. It's a different jurisdiction in terms of population and market. I think for us, it's second only to Illinois. So it's a really big market, one that we really want to make a dent in by offering Michigan clients the best betting experience out there, by offering the most markets, the fastest betting experience, and the best value and the best odds.
Major League Baseball season is right around the corner, so I'd imagine that's going to be big for live betting in Michigan. What kind of futures bets can Tigers fans focus on?
Yeah, so I guess the Tigers, it's a bit of a far cry from the days of Verlander and Scherzer when the Tigers were often in the mix for the World Series. And the World Series futures market, that's dominated by the Yankees and the Dodgers, who are the two favorites, as they seem to be almost every other year. But Tigers fans, if you're optimistic, you could bet on the division, the AL Central. The Tigers are 50-1 for the World Series. If you are very optimistic, they're 100-1 to win that. But I think that for the Tigers to really get back in contention, they've got a really good farm system, but it might be a couple of years before Casey Mize and Spencer Torkelson and these types are leading the way back to the top of these futures markets.
So maybe for the Tigers, it would be easier to focus on something like the Rookie of the Year because they have a lot of young guys that are going to be in the lineup this year.
Definitely. And Casey Mize, he's probably the one to watch in this market. He's 15-1 to win Rookie of the Year. And then Matt Manning as well, who's coming up pretty quickly through the ranks. He's 30-1 and also in the mix. The favorite in the market is Randy Arozarena post his postseason heroics. So he'll be tough to beat, but Mize in particular, he could be in the mix.
So we've covered a few of them, and I know you specifically mentioned the Yankees and the Dodgers as the most popular futures bets with the best odds to win the World Series. Are there any other sort of futures bets that Tigers fans could focus on?
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot to bet on in terms of futures. Maybe the easiest one for Tigers fans, because you don't have to beat out the Yankees or the Dodgers, might simply be just the season win total over under, which right now with us is set at 67.5 wins. So Tigers fans could bet the over on that if they're feeling optimistic and that this rebuild might be going a little bit ahead of schedule.
So we've got some examples of futures betting. Jay, can you give us an example of a parlay in Major League Baseball betting?
Definitely. So with parlays, the traditional way to do it is just to parlay across multiple games. So if you want to take the Tigers money line into the Yankees money line in another game, then you can do that. But you can also parlay within the same game, which is definitely a really popular betting option. So if you want to bet on the Tigers to win and Miguel Cabrera to hit a home run, you can do that. And there's lots of other player props along the same lines that you can bet on. And it's another way to bet on the Tigers in particular. If you want to bet on Wilson Ramos to get a hit or Matthew Boyd to get 10 plus strikeouts, all of this stuff you can bet on game to game with PointsBet.
It seems like parlays might be the hardest to hit on, Jay, but it seems like they're probably the highest payout bets, right?
That's right. So you risk a little bit less and then you'll win more. It's very popular to bet 5, 6, 7 leg parlays to get that big reward if they do all hit.
March Madness is also almost in full swing. It starts this week. We've got games happening on Thursday. So what does that look like for bettors? What are some of the most popular bets that you're seeing right now?
So March Madness is obviously huge. Coming from Australia and going to Monash University, which isn't famous for its illustrious college basketball program, it's been a bit of a learning curve for me, getting up to speed with everything in America around college basketball. But it is huge. It's the biggest few weeks on the sporting calendar for some. And as a single event, the Super Bowl is the biggest. But as an event that spans a few weeks, March Madness is definitely the biggest, and it's really exciting, I guess, for Michigan, whereas the pro teams aren't looking so great. But on the college front, having Michigan as a 1 seed, as the 4th favorite in the tournament, they're plus 800 with us. That's going to be a popular bet. They've been very heavily bet. And then in terms of, what you want to bet on game to game, most of the activity is going to come on the line, the total, the money line, and at PointsBet, we're offering the best odds on those markets. You can get minus 108. On the line and the total. So that's just another reason to bet with PointsBet.
Okay, Jay, I know the obvious bet would be the Michigan Wolverines this season. They're really good, but I'm a Spartan, and I always know that they could be a sleeper team, even though they're in the play-in rounds. But when it comes to that, do you see a lot of bets on teams that always don't have the best odds just because March Madness is crazy?
For sure. And the Spartans, they are a bit of a sleeper. They're very drowsy, but they are in the tournament. They're 2-point favorites against UCLA, which is positive. They're 125 to 1 to go all the way, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. They did beat the Wolverines not too long ago, so maybe they can go on a miraculous run. But yeah, there is lots of activity on the long shots just because you can risk less and potentially win more. So we'll definitely see some money on the Spartans.
I'm going to be checking that one out for sure. I've got all the faith in the world in the Spartans. Jay, just to wrap this up, is there anything else that you want to say about the benefits of betting with PointsBet?
Yeah, so I think that for us, we pride ourselves on offering the best odds and providing the most value. So with the outright book for March Madness, just who's going to win the tournament, you'll find the best odds on every single team with PointsBet. If you want to have a bet on someone like the Spartans to go all the way, you can bet that with PointsBet. And also, like I said, we're offering the best value on the core markets as well. So if you want to be betting on March Madness, PointsBet is the place to go in Michigan.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jay, so much for taking the time to join us again today. I know all of our bettors in the state of Michigan really appreciate it.
Thanks, Daniela.
Download the PointsBet app today and take advantage of their exclusive Let It Rip March Madness offer. From the first 4 through round 2, keep betting all weekend long to unlock up to $1,999 in free bets. Another big thank you to Jay for taking the time to join us. Make sure you guys are looking into the PointsBet app if you're interested in some online betting right now. We're going to get back into some Tigers baseball with Brush Street Beat presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. And today's guest is Jason Beck of MLB.com. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. I have to say this, though. I don't know how much you are into March Madness and college basketball, but I am pretty upset that Jay Croucher in our previous interview just said that the Spartans are a very drowsy sleeper. That was a little disappointing.
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising, given, although it's good, it's going to be a heck of a matchup with UCLA. And, I know going over my brackets, I think whoever wins that game has a pretty good chance to go a little ways. I mean, I've only done like one bracket so far, but, that's what I saw.
I'm going to spend some time filling out brackets tonight. I'm going to have the Spartans going a little bit further than most people, but that's my bias coming out in that aspect. But all right, we'll get into some Tigers baseball now, Jason. And I know I'm probably stealing Art's thunder a little bit here because he's been all over Akil Baddoo and so excited about how he's been performing at spring training. The question for you is, what is the outfield going to look like now that we have Akil Baddoo in the mix?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on how many outfielders they carry. I mean, that's one of the big debates going on, I think, within Tiger circles now, is that with Baddoo, previously, I think they were looking at, probably a 4-man outfield, with a 5th outfielder being among the super utility guys, either Nico Goodrum, who started in center field the other day, or Harold Castro. But now with Baddoo,
these plugs.
They're realistically considering a 5-man outfield and going with one utility player potentially, if need be. I think he's really forcing his way to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jason, I was kind of, I was getting caught up in Badoo madness over here. First of all, I'm glad you have your green on. I think drowsy Spartans. Can you imagine if a real live Spartan from the ancient times heard about a Spartan being drowsy? That poor guy, his head would have been sliced right off, man. Those Spartans are intense. But I
thought it was a statement about the start time, honestly.
but
anyway, for those of us who are on spring training time, we go to bed pretty early nowadays.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, drowsy. Drowsy is a great term. That must be Australian. How often have you used drowsy in your lifetime? I very rarely have used that word. I don't know if you guys have, but I like it.
I'm talking about like a medication. I feel like, does it make you drowsy?
Right, and that's usually on the bottle, and you're reading it. Drowsy. What? Drowsy. What's that mean? Anyway, let's get back, Jason, to the task at hand. USA Today put out a Major League Baseball supplement that was in the Sunday paper. I guess if you subscribe to the Free Press like I do, it was in there. And I'm looking, and the back page is a list of like over 200 players for fantasy baseball, and it says. The top player is Acuna or Junior or whatever. Mike Trout's number 5. And I'm looking and I'm covered and I see White Sox all over the place. I'm seeing White Sox, White Sox. I'm going, well, where are my Tigers? Where are my Tigers? And, like right near the bottom is Victor Reyes, and he's the only one. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, who put this list together? And number 2, Victor Reyes could be optioned to Toledo, depending on, and I'm not saying he is, but that is an option considering what Badoo's doing. Do you think, I don't want you to comment on the list. I was surprised by that, but only one Tiger making it to me seems a little odd. And I'm not a big fantasy player, I'll be honest with you, but I mean, who is the odd man out? I mean, if there is an odd man out and they only take 4 outfielders, does that mean Badoo is, I think it'll be a private jet back to Minnesota. I think the Twins will bring their own plane to pick him back up. But how is that? How do you think that's going to play out if it's only goes to 4? Who's the odd man out if it's not Badoo?
I would think that Victor Reyes, by virtue of having options left, would be a very strong candidate to be optioned out. It would be a tough break. Given what he's been able to do, especially last year, I mean, it would really be kind of hard luck. But he would not be the first player who's kind of fallen into that trap of being the odd man out because he has minor league options left. I think right now, even if you think Victor Reyes can have an impact here from the outset, from a pure talent addition standpoint, you have to find any way you can to keep Akil Baddoo. Because it's not just what he's done in spring training. It's the fact that, if you send him back, he's going back to a division rival. And I think I wrote it the other day that basically you either find a way to keep him or you're handing him back to the Twins knowing full well he could end up haunting you for years to come, maybe as soon as by the end of this year, potentially being a starting outfielder in what is already a pretty stacked Twins outfield. That's even from a division race standpoint, that hurts you. So it's, I think they're going to have to get creative to do it. And it might involve sending down Victor Reyes. It might involve having Nico Goodrum be the backup infielder at like every position but first. I don't think it'll involve going short-handed on pitching because I don't think they want to be in that position. But, they're looking at a lot of different ideas right now because Baddoo, simply put, has just been too good. He's been outperforming even what I think they projected when they took him in the Rule 5 draft.
Interesting storylines to follow in the outfield situations, interesting storyline to follow in the pitching situations. Really, there's interesting storylines to follow everywhere, but we're going to focus on pitching next. Jason, from what you've seen at spring training so far, who has impressed you the most on the mound?
I'm probably Tarek Skubal. Even with the way the veterans like Teheran have looked, I think Skubal has come out with a purpose. He looks like he's out to prove something, that he deserves a spot in the opening day roster and that he can be a frontline starter maybe sooner than expected. He came in with a game plan. He really wanted to work on the secondary pitches. He went to drive line to do that. And he's throwing with purpose. His fastball has been up mid-90s and above really from his first outing. And I think he's opened some eyes and he's really made an impression on AJ Hinch. There's a business-like approach to him. Like, this isn't just about learning and about, just, being able to, practice your craft in a lower pressure setting. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself, it seems. And, he's always been a quiet person, at least as long as I've dealt with him the last couple of years, but he seems especially focused. And I think other players have pointed this out. He seems especially focused on trying to make this team and trying to mow down hitters. He almost feels like he's a robot designed to take down hitters here from the start of camp.
Well, now let's look at it. And if we were to just scratch underneath the surface, not really deep, just like a white line underneath that surface, would the Tigers secretly be a little bit worried about Casey Arthur Mize and him not finding his groove after what happened to him last season?
I think there's a little room for worry there. Yeah, I think the fact that the stuff looks good. He's getting swings and misses. He's getting strikeouts. The walks, I think, are a concern. I think they're trying to get him to go over the plate and challenge some guys. They're trying to get him to throw strikes early in counts and get ahead in counts and put himself in position to let that splitter be a more usable pitch. It hasn't clicked so far, but I think they're trying to reinforce the point. And I think they're willing to challenge him on it. And I don't think he's guaranteed a spot just yet. I think they would very much like to bring him up north with the club to open the season, to have him work more with Chris Fetter. But if he's putting guys on base without making him put the ball in play, I think he's going to put them in a difficult position to do that. It could be that he opens the season either at the alternate site, or I don't think they would send him down to minor league spring training. I think they wouldn't be afraid to put him at the alt sites. If that's what it takes to get him to work on some of his pitching, nuances and trying to get him to throw strikes more often. But yeah, I think there is a little bit of there's a puzzlement right now as to how do we get this guy back over the plate and how do we get his location a little bit more precise with some of these pitches.
Jason, last question for you. Focusing on catching, Wilson Ramos was the veteran addition in the offseason for the Tigers, and there may have been some question about how he was going to work with some of the young pitchers that the Tigers have. I don't know how much you've actually been able to see of him at spring training, but have you noticed him working well, not so well with some of our young pitchers?
He seems to work well. He seems to have taken to a lot of these guys fairly easily. He did make a point in spring training to catch as many pitchers as possible, especially the guys who are projected to open the season with the club, and kind of get an idea of, learning their mix, learning, what their pitches do. And it's important. And, just talking with AJ Hinch today, the catcher is very involved in the scouting reports and the game plans that they put in. AJ puts a lot of pressure on these catchers to put in the work to do that. Yeah, a lot of it is based off of advanced scouting, a lot of it off of video, but the this staff relies on the catcher to, watch this stuff and look at the tendencies and put together reports. So I think, Wilson has put together a lot of prep work to be in a position to do that, and also to earn the pitcher's trust, because it's looking like it's going to be a very wide-ranging pitching staff in terms of experience level. Going from guys like Skubal to guys like Teheran and Urania and guys in between.
Definitely very interesting. Like I said earlier, a lot of storylines to follow as we approach opening day very soon, just a couple of weeks away now. So it's very exciting. Jason, we will definitely be having you join us again soon to take a look at the Tigers' finalized opening day roster. So we'll be chatting real soon.
Absolutely. Hopefully Art has another hat to surprise me with.
Next time he's going to add a little leprechaun, and it's going to be Jason Obeck.
Jason Obeck to go with Dan Dickerson and Ken O'Cal. It'll probably be rabbit ears or something for Easter, I would imagine.
Okay. Perfect.
That would be good. I would. Yeah, I hope to see that.
Yeah,
thanks.
I wouldn't be that character in Bob's Burgers, the little girl that always wears the rabbit hat.
Oh man, I would love to see that.
Oh
yeah,
man,
I would too. I'm sure they must be popular now. They must be popular, right? I mean, because that show's pretty popular. So I would imagine, pink bunny ears. I still don't get why she always wears it. But it's a good show.
Yes, Art, very hip. Okay, Jason, now that we went off on that route, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it. We'll be chatting soon. And a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward. Tigers fans, I know you all have to be excited for Tiger seasons. And as we all look forward to welcoming back the best fans, don't miss a minute of the 2021 Tiger season with a 1901 Society membership starting at just $499. That's only $6.16 per game. Secure your personal seat, a membership in the 1901 Society, and exclusive benefits like player meet and greets and more. Buy now at tigers.com/499. And now we're going to transition into some Red Wings hockey with Downtown Hockey Town presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Grand Rapids' own Max Bultman of The Athletic. Max, as always, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, great to be here as always. How's it going?
It's going well, and it's been going well for the Red Wings too. So let's dive right into it. We actually have a lot of positive things to talk about. The Wings are 2-2-1 in their last 5 games, and all 5 of those games were either against the Carolina Hurricanes or the Tampa Bay Lightning. Max, what have you seen that you've liked in these past 5?
Well, I thought their game against Carolina on Tuesday night was really strong. I mean, that was a game where you saw the Red Wings bounce back from a game where I thought Carolina played a really, really good game. The first game of this series, I guess that would have been, what was it, Sunday? When was that? The first game that Sunday. They took on that. Yeah. I mean, Carolina was really tough to play against that night, and you saw it. And I thought the way that the Red Wings bounced back in this Tuesday game was great. Dylan Larkin was pretty close to as good as he's been all year. He sets up the Fabry goal, the 3-2 goal that ends up being the game winner on a end-to-end rush, top speed, must have gone through every Hurricanes defender on the ice, and then it's a little drop pass to Fabry all alone in front for the goal. I thought it was as impressive of a full 60-minute display as I've seen from the Red Wings the entire season. Adam Ernie with a couple of power play goals. I don't know how many people would have guessed him as the antidote for the Red Wings power play problems, but he's kind of proven to be one, and playing in that bumper spot. I know when he first got to the Red Wings, that was an area that I'm sure he wanted to show his skills. I mean, coming from that Tampa team, he had been buried on their roster. And so I think he scored against the Lightning one of those games, and maybe in the one that they won. And then he gets a couple power play goals here against Carolina. So it is impressive. I mean, the fact that they can go toe to toe with what I think are 2 of the 5 best teams in the league, it's been a good week for them.
Max, I would assume that today your wet burrito will have green sauce on it, not red sauce.
I think I'm going to go with chicken drumsticks today, Art. I had a burrito bowl yesterday, so I gotta change up the variety a little bit.
All right. Well, then hopefully you'll have some sort of green sauce to put on that. Yeah, I've never seen you in a baseball cap.
We're
What are
into
you?
March now, Art. I'm not wearing green until this tournament's over.
Oh,
Ooh! I do like that thinking.
Max, I
So
don't know
let's
if
just.
you heard the interview earlier that we did with Jay Croucher from PointsBet, but he called. Not only did he call the Spartans a sleeper, he called them an extremely drowsy sleeper. So take that for what it's worth.
I think they
could win. I think they could win their first couple rounds, but I can't take any chances here, Daniel. You know how it is.
Yeah, I get you. It's okay. I understand.
I definitely think that that Texas is going to be a tough matchup for them. But Michigan State surprises this time of year with everything said. Just let's make sure, Max, you're not anti-Irish, right? So
I think I actually have a little bit of Irish somewhere in the bloodline. It's a whole mix: German, Polish, Norwegian. I think there's got to be some Irish in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm Irish, German, Greek. That's it. Three really weird mixes to be. But with all that said, I want to ask you, Jeff Blashill said a really interesting thing last night. He talked about how pleased he was, 5 of 8 points, and then he ended it with, and I wrote it down. He ended it with, "We played like a hockey team," and I thought, wow. That's an interesting statement. I'm not trying to read anything into it, but I think what he meant is that we all know how we need to win games. We're healthier and we're all playing the way that we should play. Every guy knows his role. And I really think, and maybe we should make more out of this than we have, I think going with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen have kind of reignited this team in a strange sense.
Well, and I think you're right about that. And what's interesting about it is one of the reasons I think that's happening is because of what it allows them to do on that. I guess you could call it the second or third line. I think it's probably the third line, the one that Rasmussen centers, is it allows them to cycle different forwards onto that wing spot with them. And so you get a little bit of Mantha on that line. You get a little bit of Fabry on that line, whoever it may be. I think Zadina's slidden down on there a couple of times, maybe Gagne and Nemesnikov every so often. You just see that rotation come, and these are all offensive players. And so where you're subbing out a guy like Brome, who I think has been really defensively responsible, just hasn't scored a whole lot. And so you're rotating these more offensive guys into that line, and all of a sudden it just gives you more offense on the ice at more times of the game. And then the fact that I think they've gotten these contributions from this Glendening, Ernie, and Helm line has been huge lately. I mean, this is a line that mostly the Red Wings rely on to take on tough matchups. They rely on them to kind of try to neutralize other teams' top scorers. They like to do that on the forecheck. They like to do it by just keeping the puck away from opponents' top scorers whenever possible. But the fact that they're also putting some points on the board just goes a long way, and it makes the workload a lot easier. I don't know about you guys, but I think this team is built to protect leads more so than it is to chase them. And so when they can get a lead like they've had it in a couple of these games, they had it against Tampa, they had it Tuesday night against Carolina, I think you really start to see the identity of this team play up. Whereas when they're chasing a 2-goal deficit in the second period, I don't know if that works so well to how they want to play hockey.
This whole season, we've heard Coach Blashill talking about playing these really close hockey games and somehow finding a way to be on the right side of the close games. And that's what they've done in the past 5 games. But Max, I want to ask you specifically about Michael Rasmussen. I think I asked Art the exact same question during our in-game show last night. But has he solidified his spot in this lineup?
It's a great question. I've wondered the same thing. I mean, you saw a couple times last night, with confidence taking the puck into the zone or to the net, and I think you're seeing, especially on the power play, his comfort level, and he's making quicker decisions, which is something that I know Jeff Blashill really wanted to see out of him. To me, the fact that they called him up and plugged him in the way they have is probably a pretty good sign for him. It's hard to say who's solidified when the lineup isn't still fully healthy. I don't know what's going to happen when Tyler Bertuzzi comes back in, but to the point you made earlier, if they've been going with 11-7, well, you can just plug Tyler Bertuzzi back in and switch it to 12-6. And Tyler Bertuzzi can fill that role of that offensive player who spreads out your scoring depth. And maybe you just find someone more permanent on that Rasmussen line. And same thing with kind of Bobby Ryan coming back. They'll have to account for that too. But, I'm hesitant to say he's cemented it. But I think he's certainly proving he's got a pretty good case to stay up here, certainly for the foreseeable future, and then maybe kind of for the long haul.
Yeah, I think in last night's game, what you really saw, I think you saw the most complete game that he has played since he's been up here. I mean, I can't go back to the 60 games where he played as a 19-year-old, as he was still trying to find it. But I really thought his net front presence, I think Reimer was a little bit agitated by him because he was right in front of him. Obviously, the one Ernie goal, I don't think he ever saw. I think Michael is starting to come to his own. You can tell that he's working on his skating. I think that's I think, and I told Daniela this last night, I'll just tell you, Max, I believe that he's going to get every opportunity to fail, if you want to put it that way. I think they're going to put him in there. They want a third line center. I think they really, they like Glendening. They like that line at fourth line. And another thing I think that 11 forwards do, which Jeff Blashill said, and I couldn't agree with him more, is that virtually every forward is involved in special teams one way or another. I mean, so they're not sitting on the bench, for long minutes at a time. They're either playing on their line or they're going to be on a power play or they're going to be on a penalty kill. I think that the Red Wings, you can tell, they all seem very engaged into the game. And I think that's because they're all getting, no player's probably getting as many minutes as he wants, but they're getting minutes and they're contributing to the team. With that said, let's talk about Jonathan Bernier. I mean, well, because
he's playing on every special teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, he plays 60 minutes a game. He plays 60 minutes a game. That is a smooth transition, by the way. But I mean, Bernier, again, is, I think, proving to be their MVP. I think we forget, I brought this up earlier, Carolina, in the last two periods, had 30 shots on net. They played a little undisciplined. They took 6 penalties, but they had 30 shots on net. The Red Wings had like 12 or 13. I mean, they had 15 in the first period where they were completely dominant. But Bernier, I don't know what happened on December 2019, but since that time, he has by far been the reason why the Red Wings are winning games. How much do you think the league has taken notice in that? I mean, is Bernier playing himself into an extension with the Red Wings, or is he playing himself out of town, do you think, with the Red Wings?
It's one of the most interesting questions I have between now and April 12th, because you're right. Since December 2019, he's not just been the Red Wings' best goalie. He's been, toward the top half of the league in goaltending. I think he's been very underrated in what he's provided them in the last, year plus. You look at him right now, and we all know where this Red Wings team is, right? They're around the bottom 5 of the NHL. I think they're still in the bottom 5, even though they've won a couple recently. Jonathan Bernier has an 8-6 record. I mean, he's above 500 as an individual goalie here, and that's really impressive when you consider where the team's at overall. You never love to lean too heavily on wins as a goalie stat. It's a team stat, but individually, he's got a .914 save percentage. That's the best that he's had in a few years here, and I think that's pretty similar to what he was doing down the stretch last year. So this is really a sustained run of really strong play. He gives them a chance every single night that he's in the net, and that's what ultimately you want out of a goalie. And so it brings you to this dilemma of, all right, maybe there's going to be teams around the league who need some veteran, security in net for the playoffs, right? You're a rebuilding team. It's a pending free agent. Usually what a rebuilding team with a pending free agent does is they send him off to a team that needs something like that. They get a draft pick. But if you're the Red Wings, I also think you got to be thinking, man, this guy's been so good for a year and a half. Like, is he the kind of guy that maybe you bring back and you sign for another 2-3 years and you let him kind of get you through this rebuild? Because, certainly as rebuilds go, you don't want them to get miserable. You don't want the losses to pile up like they did, I think, too often last season. And one reason I think this year's been so much better for the Red Wings is that, these streaks aren't running on too long, except for there was that one toward the beginning of the year. But other than that, they don't last too long. These aren't blowout games. These are tight games like Daniela was mentioning. And I think he's a big reason why. I think you got to consider trading him for the right price. You have to, considering the situation the team is in. But whether they trade him or not, I think there should be a contract offer tendered by Steve Yzerman to Jonathan Bernier at some point this offseason, regardless of if he stays at the trade deadline or not. I think you got to circle back no matter what happens. That's how good he's been.
I definitely think Steve Yzerman's going to listen if people are offering for Jonathan Bernier, as he will.
I think so too.
on the Red Wings. But like you said, you have to have goaltending to get through a rebuild too. So it's definitely a very interesting situation. I don't think anyone on this Red Wings team got off to the start they wanted this season, besides maybe Jonathan Bernier. But Philip Arona, as of late, has been really good. He has 8 points in his last 4 games, Max, and last night it was an empty netter, but he got his first goal of the season too.
Sometimes that's what you need to get you off that slump, right? I mean, it wasn't a cheap empty netter. He went the whole length of the ice with it in the air. He's got a little bit of a talent for that. No, I agree with you. He's been great, and I thought his pass that he made to Dylan Larkin in that I think it was a Tampa game where he found Larkin right out front and Larkin just kind of tapped it in the crease. That was a nice find by Hronek with a good shoulder check, good awareness by him to know where he needed to put that puck and find Larkin with really what amounted to a tap in there. A couple of the assists recently have been kind of secondary assists, but, I thought he looked really strong up top on the power play last night. And so, yes, maybe he wasn't the one directly feeding the goal, but good play at the line, smart plays. He's getting the puck into situations that then lead to opportunities. So I think Philip Hronek's been good. I mean, I think he's a good player. I do think sometimes the workload that he has to take on may be a little bit of a disservice to him, just because it's really hard to be at your top level for 24, 25 minutes a night, as he sometimes has to play. But that's what the Red Wings need out of him. And I think, he seems to be their most relied on defenseman. We talked about special teams earlier. He plays on every single special teams that they have. And he plays big minutes at 5-on-5. So I continue to be very impressed by Philip Hronek. I think he's still their leading scorer, isn't he? 18 points on the year?
Yes.
Yeah, so that tells you a lot for a defenseman to be in that kind of position.
Max, I'm looking at it, and I know you're latest in The Athletic, and you've been writing out your series about looking at Red Wing prospects individually. I do think in goal, I guess, Keith Petruzzelli has really turned it around at Quinnipiac from his freshman year to where he is as a senior. I think one of the finalists for the Hobey Baker is the best college player. But this guy goes, "Whoa, who's that guy?" And I go, "Whoa!" I go, "Man, I can't believe Steve did this." I go, "This guy's good." I swear that's what I said as I was running off to the media place. Yet, it is amazing how this guy has gone from, I'm not going to say relative obscurity, but a mid-level pick in the first round to now being perhaps, shall I say it, and I'm prone to over-exaggeration, the best 19-year-old hockey player in the entire world.
I think that's probably a little bit of a stretch still, but I do think he's gone from a surprise pick in the top 10 to a guy who very much looks like that's where he belongs, to a top prospect. I certainly think he's probably one of the best players outside the NHL right now, and that's a real credit to Moritz Seider and how he's developed. It's also a real credit to the Red Wings and to Steve Yzerman for having the guts to take him. What I learned in working on this story, where I did talk to some draft analysts and some scouts about, Moritz Seider and how he went from kind of a surprise pick to where he is today. Part of the challenge in evaluating him, I think, was the league he was coming from in Germany, in the DEL. And that was a league that maybe didn't have the track record of that you would look at for like a Sweden, and you can say, hey, this is what, a top prospect should produce in the SHL. This is what a top prospect should produce in Finland. This is what a top prospect should produce in college. This is what they should produce in the OHL. Well, there just wasn't much of a track record for that out of Germany. I mean, even when you look at Leon Draisaitl, who's probably the best German NHL player, certainly right now. I don't know the history well enough to say if it's ever, but he won the MVP last year. He's a guy who played, I believe, in the CHL in his draft year. And so you didn't know what does a top prospect look like in the DEL. So Moritz Seider posed that challenge. And so, you had a couple other chances to see him, but one was at the World Junior U20 1A pool, which is not the World Juniors that we think of. It's the level down. Mm-hmm. And then the other was at the World Championships, and that was against, men. That was against some NHL guys were at that tournament. it was just kind of, I think, a difficult evaluation for a lot of people because you didn't know how to weight all of that stuff with Moritz. And so in part, I think his development has been outstanding and he's done great and the Red Wings have done well with him. In part, I think it was just the Red Wings, having the guts to call their shot on this guy who, they must have had some idea that he was a really good player, but certainly that was not a consensus pick by any means. Like you said, you heard it in that room. I heard it in that room. I was stunned. I had done some prep work on a certain number of guys who I thought maybe they could go. And I'll just tell you, Moritz Seider was not one of them. So I had some catching up to do, covering that draft. And, but I think he's really done a lot to justify that pick and certainly to show why he went that high.
Was it Scott Wheeler that you quoted in the headline for that article, Max? Mo Seider handed him a loss, right? He completely missed on I think.
Yeah,
I don't think
and he was a tough case. Like,
yeah.
No, he's not. And really, Scott's probably a little too hard on himself. Like it's, you're always doing the best you can to say what a guy can be. And so, 2 years later, Moritz Seider looks like a no doubt top 10 pick. But at the time, you heard that building. Like it was not a no doubt situation then. So. But I thought that was a really good encapsulation of the feeling that, I think a lot of people, when they saw that pick, were like, what is going on? And I don't think there's a whole lot of doubters now.
Yeah, I remember we had our draft party in Detroit and Chevy Plaza, and we had it up on the big board, and everyone's anticipating the pick, and it was crickets. We didn't get a good shot of fans cheering because everyone was like, who? But now everyone's
Did they say Zegras?
I wasn't that surprised.
Whatever, Art. I don't believe you either, just like Steve.
Oh, trust me. I said on the Fox Sports Detroit draft show, I said my last line, or we did like a 3-minute preview. My last line was, if he falls to the second round, because I okay, granted, maybe I didn't, maybe I thought he might have been too high, but I wasn't that surprised. I said, watch out for this guy, Moritz Seider from Germany. That's what I said. And
all right, that's a little different. You can't be saying could be in the second round, but also you're not surprised he's at 6.
But honest to God, he went from 14.
Yeah.
He was like at 44, 45, right around there. And then when the draft finally was going to happen, and this is what I told Steve. I said, look, he was 14. If that draft's a month later, he's in the top 10. And Mr. Yzerman actually agreed with me. So it wasn't that much of a
clearly he took him 6th.
Yes, of course. Steve's a smart guy.
So basically,
you should listen to me more often.
Art told Steve to pick Moritz Seider at 6. That's what
Art Regner picked Moritz Seider.
I think that's the way it's going to evolve. Yes, I think start spreading that. Maybe you should write about me in your next article, Max.
Yeah, we'll get you in the next article.
The guru who sits in his living room and thinks, who are the Red Wings going to take? It just kind of comes to him.
All right, we have to get you off your high horse here, Art. Max, thank you so much for taking the time.
Max.
It's always great to chat Red Wings with you, and of course, we'll be having you back soon.
My pleasure. And Art, next time you got a gut feeling on who they're taking, you got my number, man.
Yeah, let everyone know. Why are you holding this information in?
Hey, Matt's been a good student. I consider him one of my proteges.
There we go.
All
there
right.
we go. Thanks
again, Max. And of course, a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Red Wings fans, as we look forward to welcoming back the best fans in hockey next season to Little Caesars Arena, make sure you don't miss out on your chance to catch all of the excitement. Join Wing Wheeled Nation today by placing a deposit and receive priority access to the best available seats, exclusive events, and year-long benefits. For more information, go to DetroitRedWings.com/wingedwheelednation. And now I'm going to hand it over to Art Regner, who's going to talk some Tigers baseball to wrap up our show today.
Well, thank you there, Danielle. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite, and our guest is Fox Sports Detroit analyst, former World Series champion, former Detroit Tiger, Dan Petry. And Dan, thanks for joining us today on the headliner. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Well, we're awfully close here, Art, so I'm getting real excited and can't wait to work opening day. So one of my favorite subjects to talk about is Tiger baseball, so it's always a pleasure to join you guys.
That's why I want to start talking hockey to you. And the reason I do is because I know you're a proud papa of both of your sons, but your son Jeff is just tearing up the NHL. He leads all NHL defensemen in goals with 11. He has 14 assists. He's second, tied with Quinn Hughes, a Michigan guy and a Michigan State guy, in Jeff with 25 points. For Edmund has 27. I would imagine you have to be over the moon by the way Jeff is playing right now. I mean, 2 game-winning goals. 4 power play point. 10 power play points. I mean, wow. I'm happy for him. I am happy for him, but I guess you must be ecstatic.
Yeah, you're right, Art. And there's so many reasons why. Also, my wife and I, Jeff's mother, we're both from California. We didn't know anything about hockey, so just that he even made the NHL, and then, for a kid from the United States to be in the league this long, this is his 11th season, and he's only played for 2 Canadian teams, and I think they know a little bit about their hockey, so that says a lot about how they feel about Jeff. And so for him to, I think, sign an extension also in the offseason with Montreal, kind of made him feel good. Like, hey, could be the last contract for me, and I'm in a hockey market like Montreal, like the New York Yankees of hockey. And, it's like solidifying his worth to the organization. And hey, I'll show you guys why I was worth it, even at 33 years old. So I just hope that, it helps the team obviously make the playoffs, because that's one of the things that Jeff and I talked mostly about, is that Mark Bergevin is made some moves in the offseason and I know really wants to win or go deep in the playoffs right away, so there's no messing around. So hopefully this will, continue for them the rest of the year. And like I said, it'll lead them to the playoffs and hopefully a deep postseason run.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Jeff, the whole Petry clan over there, because you're right. The Montreal Canadiens, at least in media coverage, are like the New York Yankees. I mean, their press corps, there's more people that cover them that are actually on like the 23-man roster. I mean, it's, so he, every day he's facing it, even in this environment we're in. I mean, their Zoom calls must last for days because each one of them has to get a question in or something. But, congratulations. Jeff's doing a great job. Love watching him play. I mean, he is, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago where you told me, hey, I think my son might be pretty good at hockey. And you were right. He definitely is really good at hockey. With that said, let's transition to the Tigers. How worried should we be that Casey Mize is having control issues and hasn't seemed to, I'm not going to say learn, but kind of build from what he went through last year and made adjustments to this season? Or am I just such a neophyte about pitching that I don't know what I'm talking about here?
No. And, it's a great subject, Casey Mize, because, AJ Hinch always talks about player development and what is going to be best for Casey Mize, is Casey Mize ready? Do they feel he's ready to take a starting position on the team? And, this is for his long-term development. It's not for the short term just to try to win a couple of games and everything. It's for his long-term development and what is best for him, or is it going to be, all right, maybe he's not quite ready. Should we send him down to the alternate site, which he did last year? And I don't know how valuable that is, or he'll have to wait around until May 1st, to start the AAA season. So that's one of those real dilemmas that the Tigers are facing, is what is best. They keep talking about, wanting to take the next step and win games now, but they're also trying to develop their top prospects. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see, what happens these last couple of weeks. And let's just hope that Casey Mize goes out there and has a couple of really, really strong outings and solidifies a spot in the rotation, or at least on the pitching staff.
Right. You can't make a decision on potential or enormous potential that he has. I mean, you can't give him a starting spot in the rotation and think that he's going to be able to figure it out during his starts. I mean, that there's just too much at stake, and it could ruin his confidence, I would imagine.
Right. And that's the thing. What is best for him? If he comes up just like he did last year and tries to figure this out again at the major league level, struggles with his control, finds himself coming in a little bit. And oh, by the way, I did bring Wilson with me to talk.
Beautiful.
So,
right.
but, so try to, figure things out, control problems at the major league level, and then start coming in. He might get hit again, and then, oh boy, he's not quite ready. We got to send him down. I don't know if that's right. If he gets sent down out of spring training and sits down in AAA, he's going to be extremely angry and is going to be chomping at the bit to say, okay, you guys made a mistake. I'll prove to you, but I'm gonna fix some things, and then when I get called up, I'll be ready to go. So it's a real balancing act and a tough decision that they're going to have to make on which is right. I just know that Max Scherzer, if you remember right, he got sent down for about 2 weeks, and he said, "Hey, look it, I'll be back, and I'm going to be back soon." And it didn't take him long, and heck, he's a Hall of Famer in my mind. So it can happen to the best of them. So it's not it's not a slap in the face by any means. It's just what is best for the long-term development of Casey Mize, and that's what they're going to have to figure out.
Dan, in case you didn't know, I have an obsession and a fixation on Casey Mize here, but one more question. If he is sent down, if he doesn't make the big club out of spring, what would you say to him? What advice? Because, he would listen to you. I mean, obviously, you're an accomplished major league pitcher.
Well, it's not. Well, I know what I would say to him, but it's more, what AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter are going to say to him about, and that's going to be based upon his performance in the last couple of games or last couple of weeks in spring training. Once they see that, they're going to say, boy, this is what you need to work on, and they're going to be honest with them. There's no beating around the bush. They're not going to sugarcoat anything. They're going to say, this is exactly what you need to work on. But on the other hand, if he goes out and really pitches well in his last couple of outings, all of this is for naught. They're going to say, hey, we worked on all these things and they worked out. Now, the other thing that they say too is, it's very tough to evaluate somebody in March, with a young player, don't get enamored by them just because they're having a really good spring training. At the same time, don't really get, really worried about somebody because they're not exactly lighting it up in spring training. So it's very, very difficult, a tightrope, so to speak. Okay, which way, what do you believe? Or, it's just March, it's spring training, so how do you really evaluate? Are you seeing improvement, or are you not seeing that improvement? So these next couple of weeks are really going to be important.
Dan, following spring training, let's look at this pitching staff as a whole. What have you liked? Who surprised you? Who are you confident that is, Fulmer had looked pretty good. I know he was a little roughed up yesterday, but where do you think the pitching staff is at this point?
Well, I think it's that, I would say the fifth spot is probably very much up for grabs. You figure that, Matthew Boyd, Spencer Turnbull, I think Tarek Skubal, who's pitching today, is going to be in the rotation. I got to believe that Urania is going to be there too. Those four for sure. And then you've got a whole bunch of people that are vying for it. You got Skubal and Teheran pitching today, Julio Teheran, who's going to be in the mix too. Casey Mize, of course. and Fulmer, and then I don't know if you consider a Derek Holland in that. He's had a terrific spring. Don't forget about Daniel Norris and Tyler Alexander. I think Alexander might be more of that multiple inning reliever, and that's where maybe they see Derek Holland too. But Daniel Norris wants to be a starter, but he seems to be such a valuable weapon out of the bullpen. So there's another one. But that's where I see the last couple of spots, or at least that fifth spot in the rotation, is very much up for grabs. And the bullpen has a lot of arms down there, but I think that is really out of the last maybe spot there, who's the final decision. But, the Cisnero and Soto and Garcia and Farmer and people like that, you got to believe that are solidified spots. So it's just the last couple of starting spots and the last couple of bullpen roles are the ones that are going to be up for grabs.
I want to ask you about the Tiger closer, if you think Garcia is that, but I have to, and maybe this is because as I get older, when I see an Ian Kroll or Derek Holland in there, I root for those guys. I mean, these are guys that are, they know they might be in the fourth quarter of their career, but I mean, those are good stories, and they can help a team.
Well, and you're right. And also don't forget about that Julio Teheran. I mean, he's a two-time All-Star. I mean, a two-time All-Star to be, an invited, an invitee to Major League camp. I mean, that says a lot about, his trust, or how bad, or how he thinks he still has plenty left in the tank. I think he ran into COVID issues last year that really put him behind the eight ball, and really struggled with the Angels, I believe it was. So those guys, I mean, they're trying for that one last little thing. But I mean, that if they didn't have anything left in the tank, that they would sit there and say, okay, I just don't have it. But they're accepting a invitation here. They know that it's a good time to be in the Tiger organization because, there's so many things that are kind of up for grabs right now. So it's a good organization to come in and give it a shot and hopefully make the team for those guys.
As the team breaks camp and heads north, Brian Garcia, the closer, Buck Farmer, Cisneros, Soto. How do you see that bullpen playing out?
Well, and that's why A.J. Hinch is so careful about not naming a closer. He doesn't want to do that because he feels like, unless somebody just all of a sudden takes hold of the role and goes. But, you can have Jimenez, Soto, Cisnero, Garcia, any one of them right now. And he keeps talking about wanting to use those guys in multiple innings, not just, okay, you're my seventh inning guy, you're my eighth inning guy. If it warrants Brian Garcia coming in, it's a point in the game where, man, we need a big out. I'm not going to save him for the ninth inning. I'm going to bring him in a really important spot in the game, where he gets a key out and then, turn it over to somebody else. It's a lot like, I think, what he's describing as Andrew Miller. If you remember Andrew Miller, when he was having success, it didn't matter. Like Terry Francona would bring him in the fifth inning, sometimes the sixth inning, to throw a couple of innings because he realized, hey, this is the turning point of the game right here. I can't let the game get away from us. I'm going to slam the door on the opposition right here. And that's why I think you've got a bunch of guys down there that, yes, they could be in the closer role, but they could also be that pivotal guy that in the turning point of the game comes in and gets some big outs.
Well, it sounds like to me that it would be that's a good decisions that AJ Hinch has to make, or good options that he has. Dan, unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I had to ask you about Jeff. I mean, he's one of the best NHL defensemen.
Hey, just let me ask you for some advice here. This is Wilson, as you named him, and they're changing the baseball this year. So I'm going to have to get a hold of equipment manager Jim Schmeichel, I think, and get a new baseball with up-to-date specs, or do I hang on to a good old Wilson here? What should I do?
I mean, you and Wilson have shared a lot of good times. I don't know, Dan. You're not heartless. I think Wilson's got to stay because they're always changing the baseball. You've got a special bond with him, so I would keep him, but always have the new ball in reserve. And when Wilson starts acting up, pull out the new ball and say, "You can be replaced, Wilson. You can be replaced."
There you go. They can talk to one another. There you go. Okay, I'm going to heed your advice, Art. Thank you.
Right, and you can mediate the conversation, and then your wife can call the funny farm and say, "I think Dan has finally lost it." So he's talking to two baseballs now. Dan, it's always a pleasure. I love your insight. I loved you as a Tiger, as you very well know. But
thank you, Art.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you and Wilson. And we will talk to you very, very soon. It all begins in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Dan.
Very, very good, Art. Hope to see you sometime down at Comerica, all right?
All right, definitely. That'll do it for this edition of the Headliner presented by Miller Lite. Miller Lite, it is the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes great. It is delicious. And it is also available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art, and thank you, Dan, for joining us for the Headliner. And now that you somehow got Dan Petry talking to baseballs, Art, I guess we'll move on to Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, we're going to bring in Carly Johnston for Let's Socialize, who has been all over social media during our show today. Carly, it's good to see you. We haven't had you on with us live yet. I feel like this was the most.
know.
Yeah, really.
I've definitely been watching the whole thing, though. I'll tell you that much. Wearing my green, matching today, Daniela.
Look at that.
You've got the broccoli behind you, so that looks good.
Got the broccoli, ready to go. All right, are you guys ready? I have some really good Let's Socialize topics, all right? We're going to start, Danielle. I'm going to pitch this first question to you. We had a fan question, and they asked, do you think the Red Wings are on the up and up as they improve on their power play?
Well, yes, I do think that is something that is trending in the right direction, and they're definitely getting better on it. And you heard Max Bultman talking about it. One key factor to the power play has been Filip Hronek. He's been a great quarterback to the power play as of late. He definitely showed improvement from the beginning of the season. He picked up 2 assists on both of Adam Ernie's power play goals last night. So I think that was a huge factor in it. He's really running the power play a lot more smooth. Adam Ernie's finding his way into the power play. And you got to remember, losing Tyler Bertuzzi was huge. I know the Red Wings still weren't great on the power play, but when they did score a power play goal, it was Tyler Bertuzzi. So trying to fill that void with a combination of what I think might be Adam Ernie, Michael Rasmussen in front of the net was something that they really needed to do. Is there still room for improvement? Of course. We were watching the game all three together last night and saying on a couple of their power plays, they could not break out of their own zone. So their breakouts need to get better. Of course, they're not very good at resetting when their plays don't work, but I think we've seen them trend in the right direction, and Filip Hronek is a huge part of that.
I couldn't agree more. And Hronek even got his first goal of the season on a full sheet of ice, empty netter. That was really cool to see. But yeah, again, on that power play, like you said, just keeping it out of our zone because we don't like those shorthanded goals like we saw yesterday. But Art, moving on to you and on to the Tigers. Do you think Daniel Norris will be a starter or reliever this upcoming season?
I think he will probably start in the bullpen, but because even conservative estimates think when it's all said and done, because nobody's arm was completely stretched out last year in a 60 game, although the Tigers only played 58 game schedule, I think eventually he will start some games for the Tigers this year. But and I think Dan Petry hit it on the head. He is so valuable and so versatile and so talented that he might be a better weapon coming out of the bullpen than as a starter. But I think as the season starts to play out and hopefully they're able to play out all 162, I think eventually AJ Hinch is going to give him the ball and say, you're starting on the bump today. I do think that he will start some games, but I do think that even though he's a team player, he probably wants to start in his heart. But if the team's winning and he's helping them coming out of the bullpen, he will do that. But as I said, I think eventually somewhere down the line, he's definitely going to start some games this year.
Very cool. Excited to see what happens. But we do want to wish a very happy birthday to Bobby Ryan. Unfortunately, we saw he didn't play in the game last night. We'll see what his update is coming in tomorrow night's game, but hoping that he is really enjoying his birthday today. So a big happy birthday to Bobby. And of course, we know Bobby's been trying to read a lot this season when they're on their road trips and they're just sitting in the hotel room. So here are his birthday book club reads. And Art, I know you would love to see a few of those. I'm sure you've read a couple and you've recommended some to Bobby as well.
Yes, out of those books, I've read 3 of them. And I will say that I know he's currently reading War and Peace, which I gave him, which is a fantastic, one of the best books I've ever read. And then I also gave him a compilation of short stories by Raymond Carver called Where I'm Calling From, which is several of his books put into one, like a greatest hits compilation collection. And I hope he reads that too. Raymond Carver, one of the greatest American writers ever. And and there's been a lot of great American short story writers, but Raymond Carver is at the very, very top. I suggest that you two, when we're done, go out to the store, pick up Where I'm Calling From by Raymond Carver, and you won't be able to put it down.
How about I call dibs on after Bobby's done getting your copies?
All right. Yeah. I mean, okay, it's in their short stories, so so it's you look at it and go, oh wow, this is a thick book, but there's a lot of stories in that thick book. So.
And I'll take it after Carly's done.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Yeah, sure you will, Daniela.
Daniela's already laughing. She knows.
Yeah. We're on to your game, young lady.
I want to end this show on the best note possible. With it being St. Patty's Day and Art saying he's part Irish. Art, let's see your best Irish dig.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, I don't know if you've noticed this whole show, but these, Dan Dickerson and Ken O'Kell have been wanting to dance all the whole time. I think my best Irish jig, and, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Let's see.
We see you have pants on.
All right. I do have shorts on, but it would be something like, top of the morning. Whoops. My headset is plugged in. It's kind of something like that.
That was exactly what I wanted for today.
You may not notice, but I actually can dance. I have rhythm. I'm very light on my feet, believe it or not, and light in the noggin as well.
You're asking me to
you are not. Are you the first one out on the dance floor at a wedding, cutting a rug?
No, I am not. I always, if it's live music, if it's a band, I like live music, and nothing against DJs. I started my career. I wanted to be a disc jockey. I mean, that's what I really wanted to do, break bands, talk about music. And I did for a while, when records were vinyl and they were just a fad like they are today. Those were the only things you could buy. But I like live music. DJ stuff, I don't know. I guess, and I'm not knocking it because it's a lucrative business and they do a good job and DJs are very, very talented and I tip my cap to them. It really has to be a song that really can get me motoring. Live. There's something about live music that I just think is good for the human soul, the human spirit.
I agree. I could not agree with you more, Art. That is one thing I definitely missed the most during this pandemic. But what is the one song that would get you out on the dance floor?
At a wedding?
Yeah.
Well, probably now because it was such a great hit at this year's Grammys would be WAP, right? I mean, hey, if it's on network television, can you see that at a wedding? That would get Grandma going for sure.
Yeah, Grandma would be appalled. I even had to pull out my lip liner to point for that one.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I think that's it for now.
I was just gonna say I don't think bands play that song, but you give it a whirl.
Well, I don't know. We haven't had some live music since that song came out, so we'll have to see. I guess.
That's true. You never know. Can you see old Uncle Bill from Schenectady up there saying, "Where's Walk? Come on, guys, you got to know that song."
Oh
no, Molly, I'm getting another drink.
I don't even know what's happening anymore. That was fantastic, though. Thank you. That's it for Let's Socialize.
Yes, Art had too many green beers before the show today. Now that does it for Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And with that, we have come to the end of another edition of the Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. If you missed anything today, make sure you check out the Word on Woodward YouTube page, or you can listen to the show as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Tomorrow, the Wings will take on the Dallas Stars at 7:30 p.m. You can catch that on 97.1 The Ticket with Ken Kell and Paul Woods. Or, of course, you can tune into Fox Sports Detroit with pregame at 7 p.m. And make sure all of you watching or listening at home that you're downloading the Hockeytown Home Ice app, which is through Home Turf. So download Home Turf and you'll get the full in-game experience that we're experiencing at Little Caesars Arena. It really is a great compliment to watching the game from your living room. So download it. You can win some tickets too if you're a Michigan resident. So definitely a lot of fun on there. And if you want to catch the Tigers in spring training, you can listen to Dan Dickerson on Saturday as the Tigers take on the Pirates at 1 p.m. That'll also be on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll have all of the news covering those games and more next week on the Word on Woodward. Same place, same time. We'll see you then.